In today's episode, we're going to be discussing our own personal experience of being in Victoria through a storm which had actually cut out over 500,000 houses from electricity. This is our experience. It is a doozy, and we're also going to be discussing our own version of what might be happening behind the scenes, and also if we need to prep for anything as well.
And welcome back, everyone, to another funny, quirky, interesting show. This is going to be a little bit about destruction here in Victoria, Australia. And welcome back. We're happy to be back, and we're happy to be
Back. About a couple of weeks ago, week and a half to 2 weeks ago, Victoria had a huge storm, which to me felt like it only went for 5 minutes, but you got told it lasted for about 15 minutes.
15 minutes.
Yeah. However, for me, it felt like it felt like it came and went, and that was it. From that storm, over 500,000 people had lost electricity, internet, and what else did they lose? That was pretty much it, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was power, internet, and during the time frame this played out for several days for us. For other people, it played out for like a week.
Yeah.
We had no water for a day.
Yeah.
So we had to work through that. That was a bit more crazier. And I'm going to give everybody the exact time and day and date.
Mm-hmm.
So it was Tuesday, the 6th of February 2024. Mm-hmm. And the time was around about 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Okay.
So I just want to get that out there.
Yeah. It was an interesting storm, I have to say, because we knew that there was going to be a storm coming. It was just how this happened was just so very quick. And everywhere across the planet, the globe, the game, there are always storms happening. And there's always electrical storms happening, and rain and hail and everything that you could possibly think of comes from a storm.
Cyclones.
Yeah, all of it, flooding, everything along those lines. This particular storm just felt and seemed really strange to me because it came, it blew wind, it pelted down rain. The hailstones or the hail was bigger than normal hail.
In some parts of Victoria, yes.
And then it was gone. And then probably about a half an hour later, I looked at the sky, and this is the eerie thing about it. The sky looked like in one of those movies where there's a major catastrophe, a weather catastrophe, and then the sky opens up into this beautiful blue sky with clouds and sun shining through the clouds. That was the eerie thing. You would look at it and go, oh, that's beautiful. But for me, no, I looked at it and thought, something's not right here.
So the winds were, they were saying between 130 to 150k winds. And I talked to quite a lot of people who were in the storm in that moment in time, where their cars were lifting off the road, including trucks, and people were swerving all over the road trying to keep their cars like in the lane of the road, and they were literally freaking out. And I was shown photos of massive gum trees falling over on roads. Like, these trees were big, and there was power poles down, power towers down, disintegrated, totally destroyed. And the electrical company we are with, there's 500,000 people had no power, and the internet was down. And there was other electrical companies that had 200,000, 300,000, 150,000. So it wasn't just 500. It could be close up to 1 million people in total that had no power. And not just for like a few hours, but literally for days, if not for some a week or so.
Yeah.
And it was a really big hoo-ha. And the interesting thing was, I want to step back, because 3 to 5 days prior to that, I had a lucid dream. And the lucid dream was me and Alison in our house, even though it didn't look like our house, but it was a house that we were in. We had no lights on, But all of a sudden, this big flash of white light hit around us, and all of a sudden, all these trees fell down on houses caught on fire. It was complete mayhem around us, but we weren't touched except for the internet, power and water. And I didn't think much of it because remember, we had 2 really hot days prior to that.
Yes.
Like 30,
and it happened on a hot day.
Yes, it was the last hot day. I think I had 35, 36.
Yeah, something along
degrees
those. Yeah, Celsius.
For the Monday. Then on the Tuesday, another hot day, and I was at work in the warehouse. It was just crap. And then at around 4 o'clock, the storm just hit, like bang, just hit. And I went outside before the storm because I just kept on getting to go outside and have a look at the clouds because I do a lot of that. Just intuitively go outside to check out what's going on. And the clouds weren't normal. They looked, I don't want to use the word demonic, but they didn't look good. Maybe demonic is a good word for it. And I looked at them and went, oh, that's not good. Because I intuitively knew and I could see the cloud formations weren't normal. And then went back inside. I would have been 15, 20 minutes after that. And it just bang, hit, slam, like devastation. Within a blink of an eye, really. And we were trying to close one of the doors because the rain was like on an angle coming into the warehouse.
Yeah.
And one of the staff went out there and she tried to shut the door. She came back in. She was out there for 2 seconds and she got soaked. Then there's a driver taking photos of her being totally soaked. Shut the door because if we didn't, that part of the area was going to flood. And we're like, wow. And if this company didn't have generators and solar panels and didn't have their own power, we would have had no power because the lights were flashing off and on. The generators are working overtime. So we were really lucky not to have any power outage.
Yeah.
But somebody's saying, is the roof going to blow off this place? Because everything was shaking as well. And everybody was like, what's going on? And it did feel like 5 minutes, but they did say 15 minutes approximately.
Yeah.
It took to come through, then go. And then they had the beautiful Matrix movie of the beautiful skies, all the colours. And
the sky at the end of it was just absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
It was purely phenomenal. And I was like, something's not right here.
And you're at home at this stage.
Yeah.
And you experienced that from here.
Yeah.
And what was your experience being home?
Mine was a very interesting experience because before the lead up to the actual storm going on, I was feeling very queasy. Whenever I feel queasy, there's a lot of energy moving around. There's something going on behind the scenes. And it was a really hot day and I was at home and I remember feeling the most densest, heaviest energy around me and so queasy. And then the storm hit and then that energy kind of lifted and then the dense energy hit and the queasiness came back again. And for me, the energy was so bad, I felt like I was going to throw up.
Yeah, and you were like that for days.
Yeah, it was.
And you felt like you were like on a boat that was going back and forth on the on the water.
Yeah, it was really, really bad. Yeah, so once the storm hit, the energy kind of lifted, but then I think after about an hour, the dense energy came back again. And by that stage, like I said, the storm had blown over. I thought my car was going to get damaged. I was going to run out to cover the car. By the time I ran out to cover the car with the towels, the storm had finished.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how quick it came. That's how quick it came and left. And my thing with this is that everyone around the world experiences storms to such a degree where there is destruction. And I don't quite understand how a storm like this lasted, in my perception, 5 minutes, but apparently 15 minutes, could create so much devastation on a level where it literally melted or crumbled towers, electrical towers.
And these towers are massive.
And we have had thunderstorms and lightning for eons. And yet for some reason, these towers were struck down. And that is what I question. Because these towers should have some form of capability, because it's electrical. It's electrical current running through them. Of course, wouldn't they, when they built them, gone, okay, we need to have some kind of grounding system to earth any kind of thunderstorm or lightning strike?
I think the wind had a big thing to do with it, because if you're looking at 130, 150k winds in a short burst, those towers couldn't handle that type of wind force.
I do understand that, but I do have my own suspicions about that.
Yes, we're all picking up that you're going to be on your high horse of this.
Because it just does not make sense to me. It has lasted for, what do they say, 40 years? 40 years of lightning and thunder and rain, and this one storm that comes through for 5 minutes, I'm going to say 5 minutes, for 5 minutes, and it literally crumbles power for everyone. Crumbles power for everyone. No one had electricity. Well, not no one. Only about over 500,000.
So just settle down there, mate.
I am so on my high horse right now.
So we're in Knoxfield. Knoxfield was hit really hard.
Apparently, but then we drove through Knoxfield and it didn't look like it hit very hard.
So it was, in a way, different targeted areas that we got. And then your parents live in Croydon.
Yeah.
And I've spoke to people in Croydon.
Yeah.
And nothing happened. I think they got some rain.
Yeah.
But no destructive force came through.
No.
And there was other parts of Victoria that just got slammed, and some parts didn't. So this is the interesting part as well. There was people telling me that down the road they got slammed with this storm, but just across the road didn't. It's like it was really like, I don't know, planned out that way, but it was like this patches of areas where it just got really hit, and next to it didn't get hit. That is odd to me as well.
Exactly. That's the strange thing about the storm, because usually during a storm, everyone gets hit. If it's going through a certain, pattern of or directional path, everyone pretty much gets hit by the storm.
But no, this didn't play out that way.
No, this was a different one, and that is the suspicious thing about it.
Because we all have an understanding that the weather is pretty much created and is man-made now. They have, everybody knows this who are
listening.
If you don't, you'll know now that there's technology out there to control the weather.
Yeah.
And I'm always like going, oh, somebody's turned the dial to do something to the weather today, because it feels like it's not natural, it's not organic.
And that was the thing. It didn't feel organic.
It was created.
Yeah.
Yep.
It felt like it was created with such brute force, because it can be done.
And it was created to be destructive.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly it. Because that was my interpretation. Because I remember saying to you now, to me it felt like it was planned out in a way that the electrical towers that got shorted or crumbled were like targeted from outside of the system, outside of into space, or whatever you want to put it. This is my own, and you may call me crazy, but this is my own interpretation. This is what I saw, that it was targeted for this to play out, for a reason to play out, because there are certain things that happen now for things to play out.
Yeah. There's a lot of agendas being created and formulated to play out, to create certain actions or certain agendas for the bigger picture. So that's what we believe. Tell everybody what you got in your head when you said to me, I just got told I'm the chosen one for this to play out.
Okay. So we had no power. So what I was doing, usually I don't like sitting in the dark. And usually if it's dark, I go outside and I just want to be away from everything. But this time around, I felt like I needed to be in the house, and Jason put it as sitting in or sorting out my own stuff, really, my own personal stuff. Because Jason's at work. Jason didn't need to sit in the house in the dark. I technically didn't need to sit in the house in the dark. I could have gone out, but I chose to be here and to be in the house. For whatever reason, I chose to do it. And it was interesting. It was very interesting. It was a very strange experience for me. But I feel, when was it? It was the Tuesday it hit, the Wednesday, the Thursday. I think it was the Thursday. So the Thursday, I just felt the need to sit down and meditate for some odd reason. So me, instead of going into, I could have come into the podcast room. I could have gone into the healing room. But no, I sat on the floor in between the kitchen and the dining room, and which is where our computers are. And I just sat there and I just started to just be, and to feel it into my body and to feel what's going on, because I could feel all these entities, these beings around me. I had no idea who they were, but I could feel that there was quite a few of them around me. And then one step forward from, this is like a description that I'm recalling, one seemed to step forward, and I asked, well, what is going on? And that's when I got, well, you are chosen. Now for me, sometimes in my own history, I'll be like, I said to them, well, in a past self of mine, I'd be like, I'd be excited to be chosen. However, I don't feel like that is the case anymore. And if you got nothing else to say, you can go, thank you for giving me that message. So that was the message I got, that you are chosen. And I thought, well, that's really bizarre, because it felt like, and sometimes, when you have something happen to you, you feel like it's a personal thing. So because I was going through this in the house, and I felt like I was holding up the energy of this house, it felt like it was a personal thing for me. You are chosen. However, saying that now, we also had a discussion afterwards, and we also came to a possible conclusion that not me chosen, but Victoria had been chosen for a test of this to play out.
Test experiment.
Yeah.
To see, it could be to do with the infrastructure.
Yeah.
How the people would react, how society would react, what would continue to, if it would actually be able to continue to move forward and go back to normal on a level, because there was a lot of businesses that got shut down.
Yeah.
We freaked out because we had no internet, no power, got behind in editing and filming.
But we're freaking out because we got behind.
We got so much work to do. We were like just freaking out. And we had, thankful that we had candles and we had lights.
Yeah.
We used we had enough food pretty much to last until we got the power on.
Yeah. And we didn't buy, and the funny thing is, we were actually going to do a shop before all this happened.
2 days before.
And I said, no, it's too hot. Let's wait until it's cooler. And we were lucky that we didn't do a shop, because a lot of people lost all their food. Some people lost $500 worth of food because of, their families and everything. Restaurants had to shut down because they lost all their food. Supermarkets, there was video footage that we found on YouTube with supermarkets all lined up, trolleys lined up with the milk that they couldn't sell.
Yeah.
Yeah. All because of an experiment.
Well, that's a perception that we have here.
Yes.
Nobody else thinks of that. The people I've talked to have not gone, oh, this was an experiment, mate. This was a test for the collective here in Victoria.
No,
Nobody said that at all.
Only we think of that. Only us.
Yeah, because we always tuned into what's going on behind the scenes, not just what's playing out in this physical reality, dream state illusion.
Yeah, because we don't buy into, it was a storm and it just happened to wipe out power towers.
Through Victoria. And it's never happened before in the history of Victoria or Australia.
No.
Well, Queensland cops it, but I was talking to my mother about, because they had a cyclone a couple of weeks before, and she said your storm was worse than ours.
And that doesn't make sense because Queensland are copping it with floods and everything.
Floods, cyclones, flooding, everything.
Yeah.
And she said our 15-minute storm was worse than theirs.
That doesn't make sense either.
Yeah. So you expect that sort of thing to happen in Queensland.
Yeah.
But not here in Victoria.
Yeah. For those that don't quite understand that live outside of Australia, Queensland gets hit with a lot of cyclones, a lot of storm, a lot of flooding. It just happens.
They have wet seasons.
It's annually, isn't it? Like every year.
Every year.
Yeah. And that just happens to Queensland because of their climate pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hot there.
Yeah. Hot and wet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's also dry, but hot and wet. Where we don't cop any of that here.
Yeah, exactly.
We have storms and all that type of jazz, but we don't get their weather like what they get.
No, we're pretty good here in Victoria, and it's really interesting that your mum said that even with all the flooding and the storms and the rain that they're getting, ours was worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because she was watching it on TV and she just couldn't believe it. She's like, "Are you guys okay?" It's like, "Yeah, we're pretty good. We're the lucky ones. We just got power. Houses are being thrown around the air, roofs blowing off, cars, trees falling onto cars, roads, houses, like anything you could
We're
imagine.
not making this up.
And you can just Google or go on YouTube and just look up the Victoria storms and you'll see the devastation.
Yeah,
It's
we're not
pretty
making
crazy.
this up.
Yeah.
And I think it was the next day, so it hit the Tuesday, the next day I wake up because now we're trying to preserve our phones because we can't charge our phones.
Because we got a little bit of internet back.
We got a little bit like a 3G kind of thing, but you still couldn't actually charge your phone. So we're trying to preserve our phones here. I wake up the next morning, I switch on, like take my phone off airplane mode. My phone comes on and I get a message from our water company saying that they got to do emergency water and your water will be shut down. And I'm like, of course it will be. Of course the water's going to be shut down. We've got no power. Of course the water's going to be shut down as well. So now we have no water either. Not now, back then.
Yep. So we were charging our phones through your car. Because we both needed phones for alarms and
Yeah.
It's really amazing. If this was an experiment, it was a grand experiment for us because like we're also needing our phones, our internet. People are losing their marbles at work with no internet. People have batteries at work trying to charge their phone batteries just to charge their phones for the next few days. It was just complete mayhem. Mm-hmm. And I know with us, we're like, well, I'm not going to speak for you, but for me, I was like, what do you mean there's no YouTube? What do you mean I can't do this and can't do that? I've got bills to pay because we're all needing the internet just to pay bills now.
Yeah.
You can't just go to the post office much anymore where you can if you're an older generation where they still get their paper bills and still go to the post office.
Yeah, but we don't have the paper bills.
No, everything's really forced online through your bank account. And I'm like, oh, geez. So what happens if this played out for longer?
Exactly.
2 weeks, 3 weeks? How would that play out? So it could have been played out for longer, but it wasn't.
Which is good because on a level, they really needed to get the electricity back because if you played this out longer, there could be riots. I know it's an exaggeration, but people were getting really upset. You can't go all this time and keep sending notifications to your customers, like the electrical companies keep sending notifications saying, we're trying to get this done, and they were most likely working around the clock.
And they were, I can guarantee you. Yeah,
they're working around the clock, but you can't help other people, like consumers, get angry and annoyed because they've lost all their food. You know, they've got nothing to power their house. They have children that they've got to look after. And how are they going to cook? Luckily, we have gas stoves. Not everyone has a gas stove.
And the agenda is for everybody to have full electrical items like stoves, everything to be electric now.
And if you've got an electric car, what are you going to do then?
And we talked about like people with Tesla.
Yeah.
We were a bit cheeky, everyone. And apologies to people who have Teslas. I love Teslas.
He does actually love Teslas. Yeah.
Yeah, we were giggling a little bit. So what would you do if you had to rely on electricity and this played out,
Exactly.
on purpose or not? with trying to charge your car, unless you had a couple of battery packs on your house that could charge the car and the house, which most people don't because they're very, very expensive. How would you charge your car and get to work? So that was another thing that we thought was really interesting.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So that's why, in my perception, I feel like there was a hidden agenda behind all this. I do feel that there was, because it just seemed like on the surface you would look at it and go, yes, it was a storm, but underneath, and we always look at the undercurrents, what is actually happening underneath everything. I do feel like there was something not right about that. And my first clue was how the sun and the sky looked directly afterwards. Yeah, that was my first clue. Meanwhile, everything else around the world was still operating. And I find that quite amusing. I find that really interesting, how it felt like such total destruction here in Victoria, but the rest of the world was still operating. The rest of Australia was still operating.
Yeah.
Except for 500,000 people in Victoria.
Yeah.
Or houses, I should say.
And just imagine, countries have earthquakes and floodings, and there's been a lot of them around the world, which has had non-stop chaos and destructive weather. We've got to have just a glimpse of what they have experienced and have been experiencing for many, many, many years.
Exactly. Especially like in Queensland, the flooding that goes on there.
And I want to quickly talk about the prepping community.
Yes, of course. I wanted to jump into that too. Yeah.
So I've watched a few videos on, because there's a lot of people out there online was saying that, it's Armageddon, it's end of the world, end days, 3 days of darkness, everything shutting down. We've been talking about this a little bit through different podcasts, and then we have that hit. We're like, oh, okay. And was for me during the week was like stepping out of the fear of it, not stepping into the fear, and just being practical with what we did have, and knowing that we are safe, not getting carried away, riots and all that sort of stuff, especially not really here where we live. It's very good.
Yeah,
very blessed with that. And then we start discussing, so do we get a generator? Do we get this? Do we get that? And we have to spend our life savings on prepping for what may come or may not come. So what is your take on that?
I'm not 100% sure, because I understand where you're coming from, because as we discuss this, it's kind of, you have a sense of, do I prep for something like this and put energy into the fear of it, or do I not? And I don't know. I mean, it doesn't hurt to have a generator in case like there is because we do get power shortages, every once in a while, but not to this extent. So I do feel like getting a generator isn't such a bad idea. But do you get a generator and start stocking up on canned goods? And then do you add on to that and buy toilet paper, and do you just keep prepping and keep feeding into that outcome when it might not even happen? But then do you not do it, and then it might actually happen?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still not 100% sure.
Yeah, because my thing on that was, when you're stepping into that sort of energy on a level, it is, preparation for what may come or may not come. There is an energy attached to that, where there is a bit of fear attached to that. And if you keep on feeding that, are you going to be more likely to draw that to you than not?
That's the question.
So I'm always on, I guess my feet are in both camps. Yes, I understand why people are doing that, especially what is playing out around the world. And just quickly, all these billionaires I found out the other day, like the Mark Zuckerbergs and all these billionaires are going to Hawaii and spending billions of dollars on bunkers, selling their stocks and selling up stuff and just accumulating as much wealth as possible.
See, this is...
Yeah, I know. I know this. I know you're going to laugh at this, but that's what's playing out as we speak. And they're all getting these, amazing, beautiful bunkers. So they're all running for the hills.
And that poses a question as well.
Yeah, so what do they know that we don't know?
Exactly.
So you got all this stuff playing out and you're sitting there going, oh, well, I can't afford a bunker. I really can't afford a generator, you know, because everybody's doing it really tough because of inflation and everything. So what do you do?
And here's my other question, I do find it amusing what Jason just said about, you know, these rich people selling up their stock, selling up their houses, going to Hawaii or going to another island. And because to me, that showed that it's kind of like all the disaster movies of a natural disaster occurring and all these rich people are going into bunkers and waiting for the world to end so that they can pop up and restart population again. The thing is, who are they selling all their stuff to? The ones that can only afford it are the ones that are running for the bunkers. So they're actually buying and selling to each other and not necessarily making the money because they're still buying and selling from each other. And then if there is actually a natural disaster and you go into an island, what's to say that the island isn't going to get, no offense, but what's to say the island isn't going to be blown up as well? Because it's an island. It's surrounded by water. So it makes no sense. It's not logical. People are not logical sometimes.
Welcome to the new phase of the game. Because what kept coming to mind for me when I had the first Xbox and I got Sim City.
Yeah.
And you make your own. I still love that game. You make your own cities and you do your own taxes and you're trying to get people in and all that sort of stuff. And you've got to operate everything. And through the game, the new levels are you can have a tornado come in and wipe out part of your game, or you can have a alien craft come down and zap part of the city, and your job is to rebuild it and to get through those levels of the game. It's a complete mirror of here. That's in a way that's what's played out. Somebody operating this game's like, whoever. Yep, we're going to wipe out this part of the game or the part of the city on the globe map and see how that operates and how that goes.
So, going back to your question, how would you approach the prepping?
I think if you had money to throw at prepping, I think you would. I feel that if you don't have any money or a lot of money and it's like a little bit of a savings just for basic stuff to play out, you wouldn't... you'd really think maybe investing in something like that. Because we're talking about water because we drink cask water.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, we had no water, for example. How would that be without a week without water?
Yeah, it'd be very challenging.
Yeah. And you said, well, we're going to have to start buying, 10 casks, 20 casks of water, 30 casks of water just in case.
Yeah.
And do you see how it just continues to grow and get more... you're going to have a whole garage full of water and toilet paper and massive generators and.
And it might not actually happen.
And that's the thing that maybe that's the intuition that needs to play out as well. Even though we didn't have, I got pre-warned with the dream.
You did get pre-warned with the dream, but you didn't it wasn't like completely detailed.
No.
Like this is going to happen on Tuesday, the 6th of February at this particular time.
No. Maybe I should start asking for dates and time.
Yeah, maybe actually. See if that will work. Yeah. See if they show you like a calendar kind of style.
Because through the years, I've had a lot of dreams where I've lucid dreams of destruction. And one of the podcasts, remember I did the AI dreams where the AI was coming and going to wiping out people and turning them to AI zombies.
And you also had a dream of a natural disaster like flooding, I think, as well. Yeah.
Over the years, I've had a lot of destructive forces playing out around this globe. Very interesting.
Yeah.
But this one this one was really quick because all the other ones played out, I think, around the world, not so much here.
Yeah, so it was easier. So it was like you had the dream and then it actually played out, so it was more closer to home.
It was.
Yeah.
And I was just bombarded by how close it was. And then the dream, I think back to the dream now, the house was dark. There was no power in the house. We were looking at the doors outside the windows and the destruction around. And I said to you, we're going to be okay, and we were.
We were okay, yeah.
But the destruction around us, which was shown in detail how that was going to play out, and it all played out really to that 100% in the dream. So if I get those again,
we might have to take a bit more.
It's like, yeah.
But then how do we prep for that?
Well, that's it. And that's the thing. Anybody out there who's in our similar circumstances, we don't have, $1 million in the bank, to go and buy all this stuff that you might need. And if you're renting as well, that's another thing. And if you had solar panels and they got destroyed, because I got that as well. It's like, yeah, you can have solar panels, you can have this, you can have that. But what happens if the whole house gets destroyed?
Because a lot of houses...
And all your food and your garage and everything.
Because a lot of houses did get destroyed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's this fine line between being practical, being prepared, and also not being in fear.
Yeah.
And that's the thing in my head I've been processing. And do I just let go and trust? Like if it does happen again...
Yeah.
Because it's like a curveball that came in that nobody was expecting. And, at least with the pandemics, they tell you, oh, there's another one coming up, be prepared. Or this is going to play out, be prepared.
And it's like, how do you know that it's coming?
Because we're doing it. Because we're creating it. Just going to let everybody know. It's one of the laws that we're going to do.
Well, they did tell us that there was a storm coming. They just didn't... It was like, no one knew that it was going to do that, though.
No.
But they did warn us that there was a storm brewing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But none of us imagined it was going to be a destructive storm.
Yeah.
To wipe out, half of Victoria.
Well, that's exactly it.
Yeah. Which doesn't happen. Yeah. Very interesting.
Mm-hmm. What other points have you got there, baby?
We're pretty much covered.
Okay. Well, would you like to see if the soul group is around to share? I don't know. Share
I have no idea what they're going to share.
Share
what they're going to
something. Because sometimes they pull rabbits out of their hats and I'd be like, did not see that coming.
Thank you for having us back again on this another interesting podcast episode. And we enjoy listening to your conversation and your experiences with your week of the storm that wiped out Victoria. Yes, kept that very nice and clean indeed. As you both sit there and trying to work out what to say, we've just done this for you. As you would call it, clickbait.
Oh.
Very enjoyable indeed.
Thanks for that.
Let's start with saying, what did you all learn from this storm? What triggered within you that you felt you need to work on? What fears arise within you to help clear out the old storm within you? This could also be a mirror or an aspect of the storm that is deep inside of you, always waiting to come out to be expressed for you or to look at and clear within yourselves. How do you feel about that perception, Alison?
That's an interesting perception. I don't remember every single detail that I went through, but I did have, I did have to. I felt the need to be in the house and sit in the darkness, which is something that I have always run away from. And that's the first time I felt like I could do that.
Indeed. So you were forced to go within, literally, and externally, to sit and process and clear out what does not serve you. And that, for you, was the fear of the dark. For somebody else, it might be a fear of not having water or food, or your internet, your entertainment per se. Many of you had to go within and just process and be. And we feel that would be a silver lining. Because what if more destructive forces played out around and through your realm where you live? What would you do then if it was, as Jason said, longer? How would you react to that? How much fear would you step into with that? Would you lose your practicality, your groundedness? Would you get swept within the drama of, let's say, the storm? It is given you wisdom and knowledge and clarity of what you would do in those situations. And we say this: it is important to stay calm as much as you can. With preparation, it is or should be done on a very conscious level, not a level of fear, because the more you step into that level of fear, the more that you will draw that into you and draw that into your experience. So it is a fine line. We cannot rescue you when it comes to the preparation of what you should do, other than use your intuition, your feelings, your wisdom, your consciousness of what you feel you need to do. But we say this: be very mindful of why you do this, because fear itself is a destructive force if it becomes too big. And this is why you could say the pandemic was a very interesting one for all of you, because you, on many levels, stepped into so many fears, yet learnt to step out of the fears and become more conscious of what really is playing out, which is now on your internet. What is real and what is not real. So as you look and experience what has played out within the week of the storm, there's more for your learning, your experiences, for you to take action on than not. And one of the things is to always stay as calm as you can and feel safe within yourself as much as you can, so you do not attract any more drama on top of the drama that's played out. Are there any questions, Alison?
I'm not entirely too sure about a question at the moment, but I do remember something that did happen. It was while you were mentioning about the fear. Even though I addressed the fear of being inside the house by myself with no power and being in the dark by myself, I could still feel an undercurrent of fear of the what ifs. And it was the what if we run out of food, the what if we don't have power for however long, even if it was for a week. But there was an undercurrent fear of what ifs. And it was a real interesting thing, because we knew that the power companies were doing their best to get the power back for everyone to do it. But it was almost like I was feeling or tapping into a feeling of fear that it's like, what if this is going to play out forever?
Indeed. And there was many humans out there saying that there will be a long time of, you could say, darkness and unrest. No power, no internet, no this, no that. And as we always say, the more that's pumped into the collective, it is easier for you to, could say, forces to be, to create that, because the agenda is, or agendas is, for what you would call a reset, and not just a reset to help have a clean or a new canvas, so to speak, but for particular governmental bodies, or let's say beings with hidden agendas, to create a world for themselves that a beneficial world for them and not for the collective, which is a very interesting thing to observe, indeed, we perceive that to be a lack of wisdom and knowledge and higher level of consciousness, indeed. Because you are all one. And as you harm one, harm yourself, harm another, you harm each other. Besides this point, take the positive out of this, your internal learning and what you've learned from this particular situation. There's no guarantees there won't be other things playing out. And we did say this in one of the podcasts of 2024, put on your seatbelts and embrace. And we thought that would be funny, yet for you both, it wasn't funny because you really did need to put your seatbelts on for that week. Yes, there's a lot of things playing out, a lot of agendas playing out, and you could say you and Jason and many of you experienced only a small experience within the experience to both get you looking at different perceptions but stepping out of the fear. And we're going to be using the word fear a lot because humanity needs to understand the more fear you put out there, the more of that fear will be created. And we don't feel that the collective quite understands that at this moment, and it needs to be a collective workshop on letting go of fear and fears because of the level of manifestation that can be created as we speak.
Can I ask a question? I hope you can answer this because it's always been, Jason and I have wondered, the information that I got about you have been chosen, I don't feel it was necessarily me, even though it felt like me at the time because it felt like the whole thing was happening to me. Even though there were all, 500,000 people or 500,000 houses that it was happening to. But we do feel like it's a possibility that Victoria, I feel like Victoria, can't speak for Jason, I feel like Victoria was chosen as an experiment for something like this to happen. And I know it sounds crazy to other people that might be listening, but it doesn't sound crazy to me.
So let's use you as an example and Jason as an example. So your experience within this storm was to be in the house, to fully experience the darkness, to be in a complete fear of by yourself. Whilst Jason, on the other hand, was still continuing to work in full power. And his experience was completely different than yours until, of course, he came home to no power, no internet.
Yeah.
But just those two experiences alone was completely different.
Yeah.
And the people your neighbours down the road would have their experience and the experience perhaps that they needed to experience. So in that way, everybody had different experiences. As you discussed, people driving on the road in the storm, trees falling on cars, a completely different experience than you just sitting in the dark in your house, feeling safe to a degree. So everybody had a very different experience. And perhaps one of the levels or tests was to see how you would all operate in your own terror, drama experience and how you would handle that within yourselves, and then collectively how you would handle that. Also at another level, it was could have been, mindful of our words here, a test of how strong is your infrastructure, and that failed miserably, did it not? And what work needed to be done or needs to be done to create a stronger infrastructure and perhaps a better infrastructure. And also perhaps there was agendas and tests to see within the game how things played out over that 15 minutes or 5 minutes as you recall it, Alison. So there's many levels playing out here, and there are many beings that are playing behind the scenes within your game. You could say, we like to use the word play and testing to see how the collective goes, so to speak. Yes, you are right. There was so much more happening behind the scenes than you could ever imagine. We do not desire to step into that arena at this moment. We would like to share the self-empowerment that you all need to step into. So if this does happen to play out again, what would be the choices, the different choices that you would make for the next time, or things you would do, or things that you feel like you would need to do? Because there could be a next time, but there could not be a next time. You could, as you both talked about, have a garage full of food and water and batteries and generators and all that. But the possibility, all that could attract that to be all wiped out in a moment. So you see the paradox which you are both in.
On a level, the self-empowerment part about it would be, for my understanding, is for everyone to understand the truth. Saying that, truth is very different for everyone.
Indeed.
So our truth, not our truth, my truth could be that it was an experiment to see how everything would play out. Someone else's truth could be that it is preppers, that they need to prep for it. And someone else's truth could be that it was just a storm, an electrical storm, that just wiped out the power shortages.
Indeed. It is up to your level of consciousness to perceptualize that experience in that moment, and how far into the fear, into the unknown that you need to step into. This is why we say to you to keep yourself in alignment, keep yourself vibrating as high as possible, keep yourself grounded as possible. Yes, be practical, and you'll find that your house was untouched. And this is amazing, is it not?
It was actually quite interesting though, because we drove around our part of Knoxfield and nothing was blown over. We've got trees everywhere. And yet in some areas, big, huge trees were uprooted and fell on people's cars and houses. And unfortunately, one person also died from the storm as well. But in our area, we were actually really safe.
So isn't it interesting how you could conceptualize this as different pockets of energy higher than others, and perhaps the pockets of energy, say your area or your home, was at a higher frequency, therefore didn't attract the full force of the storm. And perhaps was that part of the test?
Many tests.
Indeed.
It's a ball of wool on what the possibilities could be.
Yes, entanglement is a good word for that. We will continue to tell you all a higher consciousness of being and stepping out of the fear as much as you can will be very beneficial for you, and you are given, you could say, a practical test on that.
Because at the end of the day, everyone dies. And everyone is energy.
Indeed, but while you're playing within this game arena, it is real to you.
Yes, it is real. It is real. But then the truth would be is that ideally the truth would be for everyone to wake up and to understand that they are all energy, we are all one and also individual at the same time, and that we all still live on after this reality hits or leaves us, or we leave the game. And so therefore anything that happens in this reality is just an experience or a learning or an understanding or an event marker. And therefore, you know what? Sometimes things don't need to be so serious. But that isn't in an ideal world.
Of course, as we look at you, Alison, and see you sitting on the floor in your experience, your perceptualization of that was not what you just said.
No.
So it's easy to be sitting in your nice, flushed podcast chair saying all this, but in that reality, in your reality at that time, it was complete drama, stress and fear.
Yes, absolutely.
So it is easier said than done.
It is easier.
And the person down the road who's lost their house and lost everything they had, if you said that to them, they would punch you in the face.
Yes.
Sorry, dear neighbour, you've lost everything, but just remember you are pure energy, and when you die, you go to wherever, even though I'm sitting sweet in my home, enjoying the comforts. So we ask you for this, Alison. Be mindful of your words and be mindful of, how do we say, compassion at times will be needed.
Oh, absolutely. I don't disagree with that. I understand the compassion thing, but I also understand my perception of the game that plays out.
Indeed.
Ideally, in my world, it would be for everyone to understand the games that play out.
Indeed,
And
but not
that's what
everybody is.
And that's what I said. Ideally, in my world.
Yes, indeed. Everybody's experience is different.
Yes.
But you also need to be compassionate and understanding of those who are what you perceive not to be awake and not conscious. That perhaps is their script. This is their experience, that they are needing to be in that state of consciousness. We do not say to all of you who are conscious and who are awake, you are better than anyone else. Indeed, you've just chosen to do so. And perhaps also it is a part of your script. It is a part of what you've chosen to awaken to, where there's your neighbours down the road are just living their best life yet, the only way that they know. We must be all compassionate and caring and sometimes patient, because the world, your game, not every single man, woman and child is to wake up.
No, I understand that. And I'm not saying that they need to. I'm just saying in my own perfect world, people have an understanding of what is really playing out. And then maybe this game can be all over.
But the game is not meant to be all over, because the game is here for the experience. And the game, as all games, will continue to evolve and change into new games. Let's say this: source of all source, infinite true source, all that there is desiring to experience, and it will continue to do so infinitely. And if this game is deleted, then another game will be created. Many of you some have chosen to come here, some have not. We will not go into the entanglements of that today, but have come here for the grand adventure, to be the grand adventurer, the Indiana Jones, to be on the grand adventure of Indiana Jones. This is what the soul, the essence, desires to be. This is what you could say source, everything is needing to experience, all through you, because you are all part of that. Are we helping or are we agitating you, Alison?
No, you're actually helping.
Thank you, indeed.
Was I helping or agitating you?
You were supporting us to be more full of clarity of our expression of communication to all of you. We enjoy this immensely, as we have compassion for your consciousness and your awakening and your fears.
Yeah.
As we are patient always with you.
Absolutely.
And your ways of being, you could say politely. Perceive this to be a multi-leveled chessboard, and there's many levels and many pieces of the chessboard on different levels playing out all the time. And yes, you and Jason would love to be able to have clarity on all the levels, know all the chess pieces, but sometimes you are not meant to. Sometimes you're just meant to experience, to see how you react to certain situations, to see the next choices that you make along your paths. This is part of your evolution. And there's many choices to come for both of you to choose, and your choices will lead you down certain paths of those choices. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Excellent. Is there anything else?
No, actually. No, that covered a lot.
So we will stay within your space for the moment while Jason comes back out and you have a conversation, and then perhaps we will have a last word.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, I thought the microphone was here, but it's here. Okay, that was a bit full on.
The discussion got heated.
Yes, I could feel it.
Yeah.
That was a very interesting conversation, was it not?
Yes, it was a very interesting conversation.
It was not what I thought it would be.
No, me neither.
Yeah, I was interested in how they said the storm within. And we discussed outside that you had to do a bit of the processing of what was playing out within you,
Yeah.
and you held strong
Yeah.
during that process.
Yeah.
So how did you feel about that?
Which part of it?
Just summarize what you got out of that, I guess.
Out of the conversation?
Yeah, conversation with the soul group.
Well, it was a very interesting conversation with the soul group. It got a little bit heated only because we both have different perceptions. And what I got out of it was that there are many games that are playing, and everyone has their own experience in this game, and everyone's perception is different.
Yeah, and everybody's experience is different, and we would all like to have, we talked about everybody knowing the truth on a level and being awakened, but there's part of the collective out there that may not, I don't know, not need, but not choosing to, or
Maybe it's just not part of their script.
yeah, possibly.
Even if that's what I want for everyone, it might not just be part of their script.
Yeah. So if any of this big hoo-ha does play out, and there's a lot of things being said about not, and whatever it is, destruction of the realm or the planet, whatever, not everybody's going to make it. If what is being said and the agendas are for things to play out, not everybody's going to make it. It'd be interesting to see what level of consciousness does make it.
Ooh, that would be interesting.
Yeah.
And is it a level of consciousness where not everyone is awake, and so therefore it's done on purpose to keep everyone at a consciousness of not being aware anymore?
And I always felt that was the major gameplay, to keep people dumbed down, stupid, silly, not there awake, keep people on their phones, keep people entertained.
Yeah. And that can lead to so many different things playing out as well, because I get the movie Equilibrium, where they played an agenda of minimizing war by taking away everyone's ability to feel emotion again. If something does happen to the realm, and the consciousness that survives is a consciousness of wanting to make sure that everyone doesn't wake up anymore, then that kind of agenda of how that movie played out could also play out in a different way. Maybe not shutting down everyone's emotion, but keeping people at a certain level of knowledge so that they don't question anything outside of themselves.
Yeah, and there's a lot of ancient knowledge that has been hidden or destroyed. And I feel that some of the ancient knowledge is really important because it's all past history. But then the collective human race has been shut down a lot.
Yeah.
Very interesting podcast. Anything else you want to say?
No, I think I pretty much covered everything, because we covered the story, we covered what happened, we covered the prepping side of things.
Touched on it.
We touched on it. Was there anything else on your points that you wanted to cover?
No, we've pretty much covered everything.
Yeah, I don't feel like there wasn't. I mean, we got the power back, which is a good thing. Obviously.
Oh, yeah, so we got the power back.
Yeah, we got our power
on
back.
Friday. We got our water back, got our internet back.
Yeah, we got everything back. And then once we were able to access YouTube, it was like nothing had happened.
Yeah, and I went straight onto YouTube to find out what the destruction was.
And it was pretty bad in some areas. Yeah.
It was not good at all.
Yeah. It was pretty bad in some areas. And the photos of the power towers is actually quite weird to see.
Yeah.
It's weird to see something so big and look at it in a crumbled state.
Yeah, so anybody listening or watching out there, you can go online and
Yeah.
even just on YouTube and just look up the Victoria Storm.
Yeah.
And there's heaps of like Channel 9, Channel 10, Channel 7 news stations that covered what happened in a greater detail. So if you want to check that out, it was interesting. I was blown away by how much destruction there was.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. I'll see if they want to say a last word. Yes, for us too, it has been a very interesting conversation indeed. There was no ill intent of having a heated discussion of Alison, but we immensely did appreciate this because we do appreciate your perception, Alison's perception, and your perception, Jason, as you appreciate our perception on things as well. Remember, we are not in your physical game, so our perception is quite different. You could say we are the eagle in the sky overlooking over everything, where you are literally boots on ground, experiencing 100% of what is playing out, what will play out, what has played out. So the experiences are quite different. We are just here to share a little bit of what we perceive to be true for where we sit compared to where you sit. And these sometimes heated discussions are very beneficial. As Jason said, indeed, we have learnt as well and continue to learn more just like you, because learning is infinite, experiencing is infinite, and you will always continue to do so. We recall a snippet of Jason's memory when he was a student and he got to a certain level within the class he was sitting in, a spiritual, psychic, personal development class for many, many years, and he thought he hit the jackpot when he reached a certain level of consciousness, until the teacher turned around and said, "Jason, you've just begun. What is to be learned is infinite. So it does not matter what level you are in or from, you're always learning infinitely. And this is part of the grand experience for all of us, not just for humanity, not for you, Jason and Alison, but for all of us. We're all learning or expanding, and at times, yes, contracting. And through that contracting and processing and understanding and healing, you expand more. And we hope we have helped some of you to expand more than not. And during your conversation on your little break, there is many things to say. We could lay all the cards on the table, but we choose not to do so. And yes, Alison, you have every right to discern if we are true or not, if we are here to help or hinder, if we are negative or positive. We appreciate that you discern, because this is very important indeed, because there are many channels out there who feel they are sharing the love and the wisdom without even knowing it, have other entities coming through to take them off track and keep them in a beautiful love bubble. We are not here to keep you all in a magnificent little love bubble. We are here as much as we can to keep things real, to a degree, of course, because as you've discussed many times before, what is real? other than your experience to you in this moment. We send you all light and love, and to you, Alison, we appreciate your fire and your passion and you staying strong within your convictions of self. And until we have another conversation next time, love and blessings to you all. You're all doing very well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, done. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. You'll see us. You'll hear us in the next one. Loving blessings, everyone. Bye.
Bye.